Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. My name is Hannah, and on my channel I post a ton of anti-MLM content. I have deep dives into different MLM companies, I have horror stories, I have top fails videos, and then I have videos like this one where I snuck into a Zoom call, I screen recorded it, and we are going to react to it together. If any of that kind of content sounds interesting to you, I do upload at least 3 videos a week, and I would love it if you would consider subscribing, consider liking this video. All of those things really support my channel, and I appreciate you so much for doing that. If I look a little bit disheveled today, it's because I am. My only agenda for the day is to film. And when I have days like this, I like to start out by filming a video where I'm doing my makeup in the video to save a little bit of time. And a lot of people have told me that they like this style, like get ready with me and reaction type video. I'm here for it. We're caffeinating, we're doing makeup, we're debunking some Huns. If you don't like that style of video, sorry. So this is a Monat opportunity call that happened last week, and they called it the Men of Monat call. The purpose of this call was for the husbands of a few of these top earners in the company to get on a Zoom call and to basically just talk about their role in supporting their wife in their Monat business. This definitely did seem like more of an opportunity call, more so than a training call, meaning like the language that they're using is definitely directed towards new prospects. And it also seems like there were a ton of people that were just sent this link like, hey, if you're interested in the company, come join our Zoom tonight, come listen in and hear how great the opportunity is and how anyone can do this and how your husband should be so supportive, that kind of thing. There's 3 different couples that are going to speak on this call, and in each of these scenarios, the woman is very high up in Monat and the husband is more in the supportive role of that business. It's really important to know that the people that are speaking on this call, they are one of the very few people in Monat that have made it to the top of the company and are making really good money. So obviously the way that they're speaking in this call is very skewed and it's very unrelatable for 99% of the people that are watching this call. These people belong to the top 0.01% in the company. Another thing is that I was also able to kind of pop out the chat box and screen record that as well. And I will be so honest, at some points during this call, the chat box was more entertaining than whatever they were saying. So as we go, I'm not only going to be pausing it to break down the call, but I'm also going to be showing you screenshots of the messages that were coming through at those specific moments because they are so cringy and very entertaining. The last little thing I want to preface this with is this is my first time successfully recording a Zoom call. I have snuck into several and I have never, not once, been able to successfully screen record the audio and the video at the same time. Trust me, I have downloaded all of the softwares. I have screen recorded on multiple devices at once. Seriously, not one time has it been successful. But with that being said, there are like 2 or 3 moments in this call where my screen does go black because I like clicked off of something. So the audio will be continuous, but if there's like a black screen for half a second, just know that's my fault on my end. Please bear with me, I'm learning. So with all of that, I'm gonna be quiet. Let's get to this call.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're so excited to have you here tonight. We cannot wait to share our stories with you. We hope that you guys leave this call honestly feeling inspired, getting some more information maybe you didn't know, and just feeling like you can relate to either one of us girls or our husbands because they're just going to share from their hearts, you guys. They're not professional speakers. They're going to share with you a lot of the things that many of your husbands or some of your prospects may have thought or are thinking that will hopefully enlighten you. So Brittany and Nestor, why don't you guys go ahead and start?
Okay, I am going to just keep it short and sweet on my part, you guys, because this is Meet the Men tonight, and I want you to hear from my husband, Nestor, and his perspective on this business. But let me just kind of share with you a little bit about our story or how I got involved with this. I am now going into my 5th year of doing this business, you guys, and it feels like I just signed up yesterday. That's how fast it has gone by. That's how exciting it has been. And that's how much fun I have had, where it feels like it was a blink of an eye and here we are. But let me tell you this. I took a chance and it has totally changed our life. And that's the first thing that I want you to remember. And he's going to touch on that. But sometimes we let fear hold ourselves back. Sometimes we let other people's opinions hold ourselves back. Or sometimes we have all these different things that hold ourselves back. But tonight I want you to really just sit back and ask yourself, what's the big deal? Why not give something a shot? Why not take a chance on something new or something different? Something maybe a little unconventional that you really didn't think that you would do.
The big deal is that people don't want to jump into something that they are most likely going to lose money at. If she was being straight up honest right now and saying, oh yeah, only about 8% of people that join the company ever make their investment back, then I can almost guarantee you that nobody would join. I would even go as far as to assume that the only people that join Monat are the ones that haven't looked at the income disclosure or they don't understand the income disclosure. I mean, is that safe to assume? It's very, very difficult for me to understand how somebody could look at those numbers and still agree to join. But if people do still join even after looking at the income disclosure, it's most likely because they look at those upper levels and they look at the crazy numbers that those people at the top are making, and they join on the hopes and dreams that they will be in that position one day. Everyone wants to believe that they are the exception to the rule and that they have like this special power within them to make it to the top against all odds. And unfortunately, that's what sucks a lot of people in and keeps them in for a really long time. It's hopes and dreams. It's not facts and statistics. And I just feel like her being like, what's the big deal, is really insensitive, because first of all, the cheapest starter pack to join Monat is $200. Not everybody just has $200 lying around. And to a lot of people, $200 is a lot to lose. And considering that 92% of people in this company only make an average of like $160, that means that most people in this company never make that investment back. So the big deal is, Brittany, that people don't have $200 to just throw away.
When I first joined this business, all I did was want to bring this man home just a little bit, you guys. He was working for the LA City Fire Department. And that's what I wanted to do, was just not have him work overtime. I was in the thick of it with my toddlers. And I thought, maybe I could do something and not only bring him home a little bit more, help him financially, but give myself something. In motherhood, we sometimes tend to lose ourselves, or we get stuck in a rut of like Groundhog's Day of just, it's all babies, right? Or children. It's just day in, day out. And I just wanted something that I could do for me. And those were just some of the things that made me want to even begin to look into something like this. But you guys, throughout it all, I thought, what can I do? Maybe I could become a real estate agent. Maybe I can become a notary. Maybe I can become a wedding videographer. Maybe I can start a blog. Maybe I could start a YouTube channel. I tried it all, but nothing truly worked. And everything that I wanted always directed me back to direct sales and this industry when it came to the time freedom, the flexibility of when I wanted to work, how long I wanted to work. It was all there. The income cap, there's no income cap, right? You can make as much as you want, as little as you want. So there was all these things that kept directing me back to this industry. And I was one that said, I'm never doing this. I am not going to be the one on my social media selling anything. Yet here we are today. Like I said, it changed my life. But I'm going to let this man share and give you a little bit of his perspective.
A couple things, okay? First, let's debunk this idea of an uncapped earning potential. It's a myth. Okay, sure, the compensation plan itself doesn't have an upper limit, and it's up to that top rank senior executive director where these women sit. That's the rank. Those are the people that set that upper limit. But this fallacy of like you are in control and you decide how much money you make is completely untrue. The only ways that you make money in an MLM is when you sell a product, you recruit somebody, and you get a bonus for recruiting them. Or when the people that you have recruited make a sale. In all of those scenarios, you are dependent on other people to make money. You don't just get to wake up one day and decide, I'm going to make $1,000 today. You making any money at all in these types of businesses is 100% dependent on other people. It depends on if someone buys something from you that day. It depends if someone says yes to your pitch and signs up for the opportunity. It depends on somebody else on your team making a sale. To an extent, you have a little bit of control over the actions that you take every day to increase the likelihood that these things happen, right? You can post about the products and hopefully increase your chances of someone buying something. You can cold message 100 people and hopefully one of them will get back to you and say, yes, I want to join your team. But no, you don't just get to decide your income, okay? This is not how this works. Not to mention that the upper limit of the compensation plan might not be capped at a certain income amount, but the human population is pretty capped. There's going to come a point where this market of people to pitch to, it's going to get tapped and it's going to dwindle and dwindle. In an industry like this, you are at the mercy of the people that you pitch to. And basic exponential math will tell you that this pool of people is going to dry up one day. So yes, you technically do have a capped income earning potential in the form of the human population.
My name is Nestor, and I'm going to start off with an apology because we just did a call not that long ago, so I wouldn't want to watch me twice. So I'm going to apologize for those people that are on here again. But with that said, I'm going to try to keep this short, within 10 minutes, and just quickly share a couple things that I think, are important things that I lived through while she was doing this. I'm going to fast track our story, right? And we joke around. I'm like, geez, you finally paid off, right? You didn't work for 10 years of our marriage. And now it's like, all right, cool. Now this has kind of changed a little bit.
Ew, he basically just said that you didn't work for 10 years, but now you join Monat and you're paying off as a wife. Yeah, I absolutely hate that. Regardless if he's like, oh, we joke around about this, every joke has a little bit of truth. You know he's somewhat serious about that. And that's a horrendous thing to tell your partner, especially on a Zoom call where you have a whole bunch of potential recruits and you want them to like you and you want to recruit them so you can make money off of them. It's so gross. I hate it so much.
But when we first started, I was kind of just whatever about it. I wanted her to do something because I know that she was at home with the kids, and I think hands down her job was way harder than mine, and it took me a while to swallow that. But once I did and she started doing that, I started doing direct sales. I was happy for her because I saw her morale change, and she was part of a group. She was a part of a community, and it wasn't, honestly, at that time, it wasn't about the money. It was about getting other moms together or friends together and just sharing something that they really liked. And I was just happy with that. And then it turned into more and more. And fast forward till today, we've seen incredible growth, not only for us, but just, close friends, like we're on this call, and we've seen it change lives. And that's been pretty incredible. Even being on the sidelines, I think that's been incredible to watch. So I think one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on was the struggles I think that she went through, and I on the sidelines went through, because I think as a husband, right? I mean, you kind of feel your wife's pains, you join in her successes, and seeing her kind of go through these struggles were tough. When she first started, she had to post about, the things she was doing, and I thought she was really good. She did her videos and all that stuff, and I thought that was great. But with every 10 good comments, there was a bad comment, right? And then on a grander scale, it turns into more and more. And I would see her go through these comments, and I'd see how it would affect her. And I think that she could have easily, and I probably would have been okay with it at any point, for her to say, you know what, I don't like what people are saying about me. I don't like what I'm getting back from this, and yeah, maybe I'm making a little money, but I don't like the way it feels. And honestly, I would have supported her and said, you know what, no problem. I could obviously still have my job. I can keep working. But she had a bigger vision than that, than the right now. And she pushed through a lot of that. And then even today, I mean, right, we get all types of stuff, and for what we believe, the product, the company, all this stuff. But I'm super proud of her because she has really stood her ground for what she believes in. And I kind of feel like that. I kind of feel like it's pretty hot, actually. I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
that a girl, I think that's awesome. So as a husband, I'm super proud of her for sticking to it, for seeing what she really wanted in the end and pursuing it no matter what. Because it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to have your close friends that are going to support you, and then there's going to be people that just don't. It doesn't matter what you do, honestly. There's always going to be people that are going to point out statistics and the why nots and the glass is half empty, right? And the people that push through that and really see that through, I think, become successful, or at least a better chance at being successful. So
this is supposed to be an opportunity call, right? But the message that he's sending right now is, my wife gets a lot of criticism about what she does. How is that not a red flag? He even said there's gonna be people that point out statistics, which is really entertaining for me to hear, because he's obviously talking about people who are on the anti-MLM side of it, right? He's obviously pointing out that there's gonna be people that are speaking out about why you shouldn't join an MLM, and they're gonna come for you with statistics and fact, but you shouldn't listen to them because they're negative and they see the glass as half empty. He's basically already training these potential recruits to live in an echo chamber. And they haven't even joined the dang company yet. He's totally framing it like, look at my wife and look at how much backlash and criticism she gets for doing this, but she blocked out the haters and blocked out the negativity, and look how successful she is now. Dude, she joined the company 5 years ago. She joined when nobody even knew what Monat was. She is able to sit in the position that she is at today because she got in at a time where the pool of people to recruit was huge. She got really lucky with her timing. She had a ton of people that she could recruit, and insinuating that people who join today have just as good of a chance at being in her position if they just block out the haters is really manipulative.
With that, I think that there's always, when we talk to people or Britt tells me about people, and there's always well, I don't know, I have to see, right? And we talk about that because I hate it, because I know what that means. I mean, that means, hey, I have to talk to my husband and he's probably not going to want me to do it. It's going to be however much down to buy this thing. Plus there's now it takes some time away from my family because I gotta talk about it and promote it, right? And that part really kills me because I think as a man, it's our duty to support our wives just like they support us. And it's a teamwork that really works, right?
I know that I'm pausing this a lot, but that's because a lot of what this guy has to say is very troubling to me. To recap, he said that it really bothers him when women don't jump on the opportunity right away because they have to consider the investment and talk to their husbands, and their husbands most likely won't support them. What he's trying to do here is to play into female empowerment, and he's kind of turning this into a sexist thing. Like, this woman wants to be empowered and start her own business, but her husband won't let her. And this message that he is sending right now is received loud and clear by the participants on this call, as we will see by some of the messages that get sent in the chat. And this narrative really bothers me because it's like he's putting men and women against each other, and he's not really acknowledging that this is a partnership, regardless of gender, where you have this responsibility to discuss things in your marriage. Just for a personal example, because I can only speak to my marriage, I consulted AJ when I was thinking about doing YouTube full-time instead of starting my teaching career. Not because I'm this submissive female who needs permission from my husband or anything like that, but because this is a partnership. We live together, we have bills, we have financial goals, we have debt, and I would never make the snap decision to jump into something really big or change my career path without at least discussing it with him first, even if for no other reason than to just clue him in and let him know hey, I have this plan, I'm doing this now. And in those conversations, we sat down, we looked at my analytics, and I had the proof, I had the concrete evidence of my successes doing this and of the potential and of the growth. However, if the conversation was about me joining Monat and my best documentation of what people make in this company is the income disclosure statement, by the way, Zeke is in here and he's very noisy, but if I showed him that document and he saw that 92% of people don't make their money back in this company, he has every right to be that doesn't look very stable, I don't think that's a good idea. And that's not him hating on my dreams or not supporting me or dominating me as my husband or anything like that. That's just him looking at the facts and being this probably isn't a good decision for you. That's just the way that I personally look at it. I know that there are abusive and controlling marriages, and that's a whole different story. But on a grand scale, I think one spouse consulting another spouse about a very big life decision, that's just a respectful and smart thing to do in a relationship. I don't think that that's indicative of a wife submitting to her controlling and unsupportive husband like he's making it out to be in this call.
I break it down to 90% of the fears are going to come from three things. It's either going to be from money, it's going to be from social media shame, and the spouse approval or disapproval. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And with that, I've told her plenty of times, right, when we were talking about this for months and months, every time in bed. I think sometimes I kind of just acted like I was tired, so I didn't have to go through the talk. But I would tell her, what's your social media doing for you? Honestly, you're getting a couple hundred likes? Cool. Is that making you any money? Who cares? What if half of your followers walked away because they didn't like what you were promoting? Who cares? Is that going to change your monetary value for your social media? Maybe you might get a cool shirt. They give you some board shorts to take pictures in. Cool. But in the end, is it really doing anything for you when you could actually turn this thing into something incredible, not only for you, but for other people, and have that community and growth? And I think that really is a big fear. And I think Megan's really going to talk about that. And I think that stepping out of that box, stepping out of your comfort zone and into something that maybe you might not know about, but where it could lead, almost like the mystery of it. I mean, I think that's pretty incredible. Really, the loss is not very much, because any other business, you have to, I mean, think about opening your own business, all the permits you have to pull, all the money that you have to spend, the rent that you have to, the product that you have to have.
You can't compare this to owning your own business because you're not owning your own business.
In order to be successful. And I kind of feel like when I work out, I cannot for the life of me work out without pre-workout. I'm mentally messed up. But I spend that $80 and I get some protein and I get some pre-workout. And now I'm like, I spent $80. I'm going to work out. I refuse to let that go to waste, right? You spend a couple $100 on a product pack and you have the capability of being a millionaire. That blows my mind, honestly. What is the risk versus gain here? You spend a little bit to potentially change your life. That to me it's kind of a no-brainer, right? I mean, if you're on this call and you're even thinking about doing this, it really is a no-brainer. What's the loss here? And I don't really think that it's much if you really have that vision.
This idea that you can spend a couple $100 and become a millionaire is so manipulative. If we look at the facts and the statistics that he's demonizing so much, it shows us that none of the ranks in Monat make a median annual income of 7 figures. When you're looking at an income disclosure statement, it's always more reliable to look at the median annual income rather than the average annual income column. That gives you a much more realistic representation of what most people at that rank are making. But if we do look at the average annual income column, only the top rank reports an average of $1 million. So again, only 0.01% of people in the entire company. But even still, not everybody at that top rank is like guaranteed to make at least $1 million. That's just the average. Some people will make more than that. Some people will make less than that. And it's not accounting for how much of your own money you had to spend to make it that far, to maintain your rank, to maintain your quotas. The odds are not good. It almost feels like you're winning the lottery or something, except for if you want to have a shot at making $1 million in Monat, you have to work nonstop for years, you have to sacrifice relationships, you have to waste hours of your life on these stupid Zoom calls, and you have to spend a ton of your own money. Like, I'll just run down to the gas station and grab a lotto ticket, thanks. Aside from that, remember how before I said that this message of husbands not supporting their wives came across loud and clear? Here's a couple of messages that popped up as he continued to talk. Sorry, they're a little bit grainy. The screen recording quality isn't the best on this, but this message says, "My husband is such a hater. He doesn't support me in my biz, but do you think if I just sign him up that he'll be on board?" Absolutely not. That's actually against the company's policy. And we will get to that a little bit later, but do not compromise your marriage for a pyramid scheme. But I will be honest with you guys that I'm not 100% convinced that this Katie profile is somebody that's actually in Monat. And you'll see what I mean as we continue on, because she puts a lot of very interesting messages in this chat, and I cannot figure out if she's being serious. I think she might be a troll, because as we'll continue to see, the way that she phrases things are like, you can tell that they're coming from an anti-mlm perspective. But either way, I'm very highly entertained by her comments, so I'm going to continue to show you them as they pop up. And then this second comment that popped up says, "Too many husbands believe in the negatives of MLMs. They assume they already know enough, and they don't want to look past what they think they already know and think differently about Monat." If what these husbands claim to know is that most people in Monat don't make any money, then I would argue they don't need to know much more past that. Why are people like, they just don't understand, they just don't know everything there is to know yet? What else is there to know? As I've mentioned already, once people understand the information that's presented in the income disclosure, it is very, very difficult to convince them that this is a legitimate and lucrative business opportunity.
I think that this whole opportunity, I think the biggest thing that we found for this is, or from this, is our time freedom. I was never like a big overtime guy. I'd work 24-hour shifts. And I'd pick up shifts for sure during the month.
He was a big overtime guy. He just doesn't remember he was an overtime guy.
That's not true. But I mean, they were 24 hours away from home, and I look back, and that's what I had in my mind. I'd be gone for 2-3 days at a time, but really the time that I'd come back home, half the day all I could think about was sleeping. So it really tied into like my next day. And so for us in the beginning, it allowed me to just work my shifts and be home and really be present with my family, and I think that they noticed when I wasn't maybe as tired of working so much. I think that I changed some, or at least I like to think that I did. And ultimately now I'm home all the time, and that to me has been the most incredible blessing that I could ever have. And that might not be on every person's heart. I don't think that it's ingrained in maybe a man's heart to be home, right? I mean, and I understand that, but it might be extra family trips together. It might be more date nights. It might be time to take your kids to a ball game or something that maybe you didn't have before. And I think that that's what it's done for us. And, she'll tell you that the baby we have, he's mine, like he sleeps in her bed and he wakes up and he calls for me. And that honestly just makes my heart melt. When he's at the top of the stairs and he tells me, "Daddy, come get me." And I love that. Honestly, I do. And I don't think without her doing this, I wouldn't have that opportunity to spend that time and him really see that relationship with me. I don't know. I just think it's incredible. I just went fishing with my son, and that's not even a big deal. But me and him on the water, and he was making fun of me because he's like, "Dad, you're not even catching fish. Well, you're just taking pictures."
He went fishing with his son on a Wednesday morning, which is not typical.
Yeah, and he's like, "You're just taking pictures of me." And I'm like, "Dude, I could take pictures and videos of you all day long. I am 100% okay with that." And it's just the opportunity that I have, that she's given me to really do this. So I think in summary for me, honestly, I think that the spouse has a very big impact on the success or failure of the one trying to do this. I think that when I love to cook, but more than that, more than the actual cooking, the presentation of it, right? It takes me like 2 hours to make a meal and then like 10 minutes and it's over. But I love to see when my kids are like, "Dad, this is really good," or she kind of gives me like, that means it's good, and I'll take that. But it's just the time that it takes to do these things, right? And to me, when she gives me the like, "No, this is really good," that to me is like, oh man, that's awesome. And that's on such a small scale, right? So imagine whoever's trying to do this is looking for their spouse for approval. I mean, you could make or break this thing honestly for them. A couple $100, I mean, yeah, that's a lot of money to anybody, but it's more than that. It's what you're pouring into them, right? Because that could be something that they will always remember. Maybe I didn't succeed, or maybe it didn't go good, but I remember that you backed me. You had my back 100%, and that meant the world to me, right? Or they do succeed, and this thing becomes incredible, right? And you were the one that helped them through it all. So I think as a whole, I think that this has been, not the smoothest road, right? Because I don't think that anything worth gaining is easy, but I think that we've been through a good road, and I've always supported you, and now it's your time to support me.
That is true. Oh my goodness, you guys. I don't even know. I'm like, should I say anything else? Or should I just pass it along?
Pass it along.
Okay, I'll pass it along. That was so good. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, well, next up, you guys, Connie and Phil. We love this couple so much. And I remember it must have been the first Monat trip we went on. It was our director's retreat in Arizona. And we were sitting at this lunch, and we were the newbies there, you guys, brand new. We didn't know anybody. And Phil stood up and he's like, "Can I make a toast or a speech?" Do you remember that, Con? And he stood up and he made this speech, and he has such a way with his words. And I was blown away that this man's at this table with all these strangers, yet he was giving these words and sharing his wisdom. So I cannot wait for you guys to hear from this couple. We love you guys so much.
Are you ready for this? We're going to do a mini deep dive. I've been biting my tongue this entire call, but now it is time. This narrative that her Monat business allowed for her husband to retire from his firefighting job and for him to come home. It's been woven into the conversation until this point, right? They've brought it up, they've kind of sprinkled it in here and there. And somebody in the chat even asked, since you retired from the fire department, did you get to keep benefits and your retirement pay? And the answer to that, Sam, is no, because he didn't retire. He resigned, and his wife's Monat business is not the reason he quit either. He quit his firefighting job because city employees in Los Angeles were being mandated to get the vaccine by a certain date, and he refused, so he resigned before they had a chance to fire him. Here's an article from the LA Times. It's titled, LA City Council Votes to Require COVID-19 Vaccine for City Employees. The article was published on August 18th, 2021, and in the body of the article, it reads that Los Angeles city employees will have to be fully vaccinated against COVID-19 by early October, unless they are granted an exemption for medical or religious reasons. LA's proposed ordinance says that employees who are exempted must undergo weekly testing, which will be provided free during work hours if they regularly report to a work site. This couple in particular has been very, very open about anti-mask, anti-vaccine, anti-testing before traveling. They both post regularly about these things on their Instagram accounts. And he made this post on August 27th that says, I stand with Captain Granucci, who is a captain of the LA Fire Department that Nestor worked at and who is very, very publicly open about the fact that he was against vaccine mandates. October 1st is the day that Brittany claims that she brought her husband home from the fire department and retired him, which coincidentally was the same exact week that LA firefighters were going to need to be vaccinated by. Now look, in this moment, we're not talking about what side you're on, we're not talking about what you believe. We are talking about the true reason that Nestor quit his job. His income is a matter of public record, and according to the database Transparent California, he left behind a six-figure income in his self-reported dream job, all because he didn't want to get vaccinated. And now his wife has gone on a social media rampage, posting it everywhere that her Monat business is what allowed her to bring him home, and he is playing along. He is going right along with it. And if that isn't a masterclass in manipulation, I don't know what is. She's out here portraying herself as like this ultra successful businesswoman who has the financial success to be the sole income earner for her household. That's the lie that she's telling everybody on her team. That's the false hope that she's spreading to people that ignorantly believe that they can retire their husbands too. And while we're at it, let's talk about how like retiring your husband isn't something that's even possible to do. I really like the way that this article explained it, so I'm just going to read. Resigning from your position simply implies a willful desire to abdicate your duties and terminate the working relationship with whatever agency employs you. It does not imply a desire to stop working altogether, nor does it even suggest a defection from other government work. Retirement, on the other hand, is often possible only when you have worked as a civil servant for a certain number of years. It implies your desire to resign permanently from government employment and start collecting retirement benefits that you have accrued. So retiring somebody else is not possible. If somebody retires, that is dependent on solely their tenure and the retirement plan that they themselves have built. All that's happening here is that her husband quit his job, he's now unemployed, and all of the financial responsibility falls on her. Which, you know what, is inherently fine. There's no issue with that. Lots of people make it work on a one-income household. That's not a problem. The issue here is straight up lying about the true circumstances of him quitting his firefighting job for the purpose of deceiving other people that the Monat business opportunity is what allowed for him to be able to do that. I think that this is disgusting behavior, and I wonder how many people under her in this business really understand what's going on here. I would bet that there's a lot of people that work with her that don't understand that they are being lied to and deceived about the true reason why he's not working anymore.
I love it. Okay, well, I was just going to say, all right, we're done. That's all you need to hear, because I was...
Nestor, you covered it, man.
Literally killed it, Nestor, and you're just you. You're being so genuine. I'm like crying. I know your story, and I'm like sweating and getting teary-eyed and inspired and encouraged.
Genuine? Who's being genuine?
And we're going to just jump into ours, and we're going to do it a little different because you guys, here's the thing is, Randy, Phil, and Nestor all have the same thing they're saying for the most part, right? And so I want to do it in a different way with us. I'm going to do like a Q&A with Phil with just some of the things I've heard that you guys ask about as market partners or potentials. and how we actually work the business, because you might be curious to find, I saw some of you in the chat saying, well, what does he do to help you get market partners, and what numbers is he pulling? And I'll tell you right now, all three of them, maybe Randy might be stepping into a little more, I don't know. They're not doing any piece of that for us, for our businesses, and yet we are where we are, and we've been able to thrive without them actually literally knowing what MMB is. Or, I mean, you might ask Phil, and he'll still probably not really honestly know very much about any of those ranks. And that should encourage you that you don't need to have your husband be in all the ins and outs. There's different ways they can support you to get where you need to go. And if they can jump in and run the business with you, great. But we'll talk about that in a sec.
This feels like a good opportunity to talk for a second about Monat's policy about couples being in business together. One of the comments I showed earlier was like, what if I just sign up my husband without him knowing? But the thing is that according to the Monat policies and procedures, market partners are only allowed to have one Monat business per household. Now that might be confusing because this entire call is based around like doing business with your spouse, but the policy reads that in order to maintain the integrity of the Monat compensation plan, husbands and wives, domestic partnerships, or common law couples who wish to become Monat market partners must be jointly sponsored as one Monat business. So my understanding of that is that you can't really recruit your spouse in the traditional sense. Like you can't sign them up underneath you. You can't benefit off of them. But you can have your spouse join you and work with you in the business if you act essentially as one person, one entity. And that's the way that they kind of get around the one business per household rule. But honestly, it's not clear to me if the husbands in these different couples are contractually part of the business. And we'll see with the rest of this call that the husbands often talk about supporting their wives in like non-business ways. They don't talk about like, here's how I pitch the products or here's my recruitment strategy. Like they don't really seem to have a hands-on approach with that stuff. They talk a lot more about like the emotional support, because after all, the point of this call is not to show how men can also work the business just like women do. It's to show the women in the business that their husbands should be supportive of them doing it.
So before Phil shares, I'll just tell you how I jumped in. It's because Birdie and I went to go meet up and talk about home births. So much like many of you, nobody wakes up, when they're little and says, you know what, I'm going to go into social selling. Like Nestor was saying, this is really new for most of us, right? Who are in our 30s and older. We didn't grow up with this. So naturally, husbands, we get it. We understand why it's kind of like weird to you, because you were taught, just like all of us, that you go work really hard, you get a job, you go to college, and then you go do, you do the things and you climb the corporate ladder or do whatever, and that's what we were all raised like. So I understand that it can come as a shock when your wife says, I want to go sell beauty products on, social media. Okay, well, what the heck does that mean, right? We get it. Like we all started with this whole notion of never thinking this is where we would be, but we did what you're doing tonight. We got on the calls, we listened, we asked questions. So I appreciate you taking your time tonight to do that with us. When I jumped into the business, this is what I said to Phil. Hey, babe, I want to join this new company. It seems like I'm all excited. How I am, my personality, everything's exciting to me. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And what'd you say?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. In that exact tone, probably exactly that way. And I think it was $249 at the time. If anyone remembers, that was the lowest product pack. So it was $249. He's a pastor. I'll let you tell a little bit about that. We had no money in our bank account. Long story short, this was not the season of life. We just had a baby to be starting a business. And I had just come from another company, okay? Which leads me into this is why he said absolutely not. So why did you say absolutely not?
Yeah, so the backstory is we had just sold everything that we had and downsized our lifestyle so that we could afford to pay for infertility treatments. Didn't end up having to do that because God blessed us with the baby naturally, and that ended up being our journey. But so I want to set the stage for living in like a 2-bedroom apartment, and your mom's living with us, you're pregnant, and she says, I want to start this new business venture. And as a husband, I'm thinking I need to protect her and, help her to not stumble into another whatever it might be business, that she's going to end up failing, because she worked the other one really, really hard, and she, she's like, this is the one, I know this is what I'm called to do, and it just didn't pan out.
What I'm hearing here is that she used to be in a different MLM and it didn't work out for her and she didn't make any money. So therefore he was very skeptical of her joining Monat. If she worked so hard in the other MLM and it still didn't work out, why do you think that is? If she joined Monat when Monat was brand new and it did work out, why do you think that is? This goes to show that it's not about hard work. He straight up said she worked like crazy in the first one and it didn't pan out. He just admitted that hard work means nothing in an MLM. And what he didn't say, but that I will say, is that hard work means nothing in this business model if you get in too late. Lucky for her, she joined again like 5 years ago. There was a larger pool of people to recruit and scam than there is today. So this company panned out way better for her than it did the first time around. Meanwhile, as he's talking, this popped up in the chat. It says, my husband is usually the most pessimistic person and not one time has he questioned or discouraged me. Your confirmation has encouraged me that I can turn $200 into $1 million too. Poor, poor woman. And then this gem popped up. Somebody put a link to the FTC pyramid scheme article and it says, girls, wash your brain. You're in a cult. Call your dad. Quick, order more product. These people need checks. Which of course was just ignored by everybody, but I got a kick out of it.
And so I don't know what came over me. It might have been the Voxers that Brittany was going back and forth and saying, Phil, did Phil just say sign up? Did Phil just say sign up? And it was like, okay, maybe I need to like loosen up here. And I remember we came up with this agreement of saying, okay.
Wait. Hold on. You need to listen to this, because if any of your husbands are telling you no, or your prospects' husbands are telling you no, this is a good middle ground, okay?
Everything's a negotiation, right? In a marriage, in a relationship, in raising kids, it's always a give and take. And so, learning that, I said, okay, well, maybe I don't, need to be the one that shuts down the dream, because what if she is right? There's always the what if. So we began this negotiation with one another, and because we didn't have any money, I said, okay, we put on a credit card, that's fine. It's only $200 and something. If we end up losing that, that's not that bad, not that big of a deal, for us at the time. Now, if you're on the call and you're like, man, that's a really big deal to us, like that would set us back months and months and months. I totally understand that. But for us, it was a little risk for a big gain of reward. And so I said, if you don't make your money back in the first 3 months.
No, I think it was literally in 30 days.
Yeah, it might have been 30 days.
It was not 3 months. That was gracious.
Basically, if you don't make your money back quickly, then
I'll quit.
Then that it's not worth it. And I think it gave her skin in the game.
Yeah.
It set a fire under her of saying, I better make this work if it really is the opportunity of a lifetime. And the rest is history. But it was hard work. It was sacrifice. And here's the thing that took me from skeptic to believer is I began to see her work ethic, began to see her personal development and growth, began to learn more about the company that she was now putting so much time and effort into building and the business she was building, and began to see the success. The more success, and honestly, the more ranks that she continued to advance meant more sacrifices that we needed to make and that I needed to make. And just to be real with you guys, for some of the husbands on the call, or maybe some of the husbands that are like, I don't want my wife to be taken away to do these things, or I don't want her going on these different things, and, meaning that I have to now put the kids to bed, or that I have to take an extra meal, or I have to be the one that orders Instacart to do groceries. I just began to embrace those sacrifices, knowing that we're a team, and in order for her to run a successful business meant that there are things that I needed to sacrifice on my end in order for her to have more time freedom to grow the business. And it became a team effort, right? I learned how to use Instacart and order groceries. I learned how to find recipes and make a meal. Learned how to use DoorDash, and do Tuesday night out. We order Mexican food, Taco Tuesday. And just began to give more space for that, and began to see her business explode, and began to see the sacrifices that we were willing to make together for the short term. In the long run, in the long term, we would see the time freedom that would come that we're in now. But it wasn't instantaneous.
Wait. This guy is contradicting himself. Earlier, he said, quote, With the more ranks she would continue to advance, the more sacrifices we needed to make. Meaning, like, the higher in the company she got, the more time it took, the busier she was, the less time freedom she had. Now he's saying we made sacrifices back then to have the time freedom we do now. How does it make any sense that the higher she got in the company, the more sacrifices she had to make, yet simultaneously she only made sacrifices in the beginning and now she doesn't? Something isn't adding up here. What it sounds like he's saying is it takes a lot of work to climb in the ranks, but once you get to the tippy top rank, then you can finally relax. Only if you make it to the top less than 1% do you get to enjoy all the benefits that you were promised in the beginning. Convincing! Where do I sign up?
I'm telling you right now, if you ever hear anybody say you could become rich overnight or you could be a success overnight, run the opposite way.
Yeah.
We're talking about 5 years of sacrifice, 5 years of hard work, 5 years of building the business to where it is today so that we have the time freedom. But it wasn't that way at first. It wasn't that way the first year when she was ranking and getting into director. I mean, it was hard work and sacrifice and it was time away. And I'll say this to the wives, for the husbands, give your wife the time freedom that she needs to go and do a Meet Monat or to go and do a Super Saturday or to go and prospect. But to the wives, don't take that relational equity and go and do a girls' night out, right? The girls' night out is the girls' night out. Just be real and honest with that.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're going to say, hey, honey, I need you to take the kids tonight. I need you to make dinner tonight because I'm actually going to a Meet Monat to go and pour into my team or to prospect, actually do it. Because when your husband sees it, when I began to see that, I began to say, okay, I'm watching the homestead for tonight so that she can go out and work the business, because it is odd hours and it is social selling and it is different than what a normal like corporate job would be. They go out and they have fun and they prospect together. So it could seem like a night out, could seem like a girl's night out, but if it's truly not, and you're seeing the risk versus the reward on that, the sacrifice is totally worth it. And so that's a little bit about how I went from skeptic to believer.
This isn't the first time that he's referenced his transformation from skeptic to believer. And I think that's really interesting terminology because I'm personally having a hard time thinking of other jobs or other industries where your partner would automatically think that it's a scam and that you need to convince them and you need to make them a believer. He's just talking so nonchalantly about like his journey to become a believer as if that's something that all of the Monat husbands can really relate to, which strikes me as so weird. Like if a wife went to her husband and was like, I'm really passionate about teaching, I think I want to become a teacher. The husband wouldn't be like, well, that's a scam and you're gonna have to work really hard to prove otherwise. This is just one of the many things that is said in this like MLM team call scenario that would be really, really strange if you considered that happening in a real world context.
And then now, just so I can kind of share this with you, what really set me over the top is when we did go to that director's trip in Arizona so many years ago now, because it gave me a vision into what the company was really about and the global vision and the global business that Connie was about to become a part of.
So pause here for a sec.
Yeah.
So he's going into now, well, what sets Monat apart then, especially if your wife has been a part of 3 companies that she failed at, or like, she's done all these things because that's where he was at. He's like, okay, well, what's really going to be any different, right, about this company? Yeah. This is what sets Monat apart, and we got that glimpse very early on.
I hope that he's about to say that her getting into Monat 5 years ago when it was brand new is what sets Monat apart, because anything other than that would be complete BS.
Yeah, so a couple things. Nestor was there with me that day, and we're like looking around the room, and it's like we're counting the amount of those headphones that were passed out and handed out. It's like, are you serious? Like, what is going on here? This is crazy. And then we're sitting there having breakfast with the CEO of the company, and just sitting there having a conversation. And it's like, is this even real life? But just gave us a glimpse into the culture of how it was a family and how the culture of the company is they invest back into the market partner. So what sets Monat apart, in my opinion, isn't just the innovation of products. It's not just the fact that they're always, branching into these different networks, but it was the global vision, right? It's not just here locally. It's a global vision. So your business is now going into a new country every year. Come on.
Yeah.
No other company's doing that.
Yep.
No other MLM company expands to multiple countries? Let's take a look. Herbalife is in 94 countries. Amway is in 100 countries. doTERRA is in 52 countries. Mary Kay is in 40. Juice Plus is in 20. It Works is in 23. Valentis is in 131 countries. How many countries is Monat in? 8.
I think what really set it apart was the fact that they were giving 50% back of what their profits were of selling shampoo back into the market partners' hands as their commission. And for me, it was like, show me the money, and the money was shown of that's the real true investment back into the market partner of the hard work is actually worth the reward. And so just began to see that and began to see, man, this sets them apart from any other company that we ever talked about or seen before.
I was not able to find any Monat official documentation that they do give 50% of their profits back to their market partners, so I have no idea where that piece of information originated, because you'd think if that was something that the company actually did, it would be displayed on their website. They would put that into their promotional materials. They would put that on their compensation plan. Let's just play along for a second, and even if that is true, the numbers on the income disclosure are still true too. It still shows us that a very small percentage of people in the company make all of the money while everybody else loses. So even if Monat did give 50% of their profits back to their market partners, which market partners are they giving it to? It's still not distributed evenly. It still doesn't change the fact that all of the money is funneled to the top. And quite frankly, I don't care if Monat gives 100% of their profits back to their market partners if all of that money is going to these few people at the top. So far, all he's said that sets Monat apart is that they're in a few different countries and that they give money to their market partners. And I have yet to hear how that's different than literally any other MLM.
And then going on a trip, for me, again, was just so enlightening to see other couples, to see other men and women working the business, and the true community that began to build in that. I mean, some of our deepest friendships that we value the most were found within Monat and going on trips. And so I would say this to the wives: if you want your husband to really be bought in, Punta Cana, that was an amazing trip. All these trips that are coming up, passport trips and these incentive trips going to Vegas in April, take them on a trip and just begin to show them this is an inclusive community. It's not just all these small cliques. Everybody's welcome and everybody's invited to join and become a part of the family. And I just love that. I honestly love that. Yeah. And it made me a believer. Took me from spectator to believer.
Again, with this spectator, skeptic to believer thing. But I'm pausing it right here because I wanted to point out that somebody put a question in the chat and it says, how long did it take you to the point of taking trips and seeing the money? Which is something that they never address. And then here comes our friend Katie again saying, how do you ladies qualify for these trips no matter how much product I sell? I just can't rank up. At which point I cannot help myself. And I actually replied in the chat and I was like, you have to recruit to rank up. Someone else said, can you rank up from sales alone? And then Katie says, I didn't know that. How many people do I need to recruit? I want to go on the trips. And like I said before, I really cannot tell if Katie is a troll or not. I genuinely hope so. Because how awful would that be if she really was in Monat and she really didn't know that you have to recruit if you want to make any money or go on the incentive trips? How sad is that I might have broken the news to a Monat hun about the facts of her own compensation plan?
I was just going to end it and then we'll pass it to Randy Megan with why we were talking about how when we started, why are we more excited now for people who start than when we did?
Yeah. As you achieve any level of success, you're always looking for what's the next goal, what's the next level of success that we want to achieve. And I think for us, it really began for us kind of this addictive thing of where we love to see other people become successful. And for Connie and I think the next dream big for us, because as it starts out, it's like, I want to come home more and I want to have more time freedom and I want to get out of debt and I want to buy a house and I want to, all these things. But I think for us, it's become really this idea of philanthropy. How can we give back and how can we be a part of bettering the communities that we live in? And now Connie's a part of Monat Gratitude now. She's Gratitude Ambassador. And I think that's what I get the most excited about is seeing how this vision now taken globally is going to impact the world. And we get to be a part of that. Everybody wants to be a part of something bigger than themselves. And that's the opportunity that Monat gives you. I love this quote from Leonard Ravenhill. He says this: the opportunity of a lifetime has to be seized within the lifetime of the opportunity. What does that mean? Every area of your life, everything you do, your marriage, your relationships, your job, finances, every aspect of your life is an opportunity that you're willing to take and take a risk on. And an opportunity of a lifetime only exists within the lifetime of that opportunity. It means that these things will pass on. They'll pass by. There might be other opportunities down the road, but there might not. There might be good opportunities and there might be bad opportunities. One of the things that I love that we get to share now is a good, awesome opportunity for people's lives to be changed and transformed for the good. And that's what I get the most excited about being a part of Monat, is we now get to give people the opportunity of a lifetime for them to seize it for what they need to become and for the goals, the vision, the purposes for their lives that they want to achieve. And now we get to be the conduit that gives that opportunity out. And so I would say this to you: if you're on the fence about this opportunity, seize it now. The reward far outweighs the risk when it comes to starting a business through Monat. And you're jumping in at just the right time. The water's warm, opening countries every year. The global vision is bigger than anything I've ever seen, and it's continuing to move forward. So we're excited for 2022 and beyond.
Yeah, I'm feeling 2022. Okay.
Okay.
He's the singer. I'm not. That's another story. Okay.
I cannot stand this language of giving the gift of an opportunity, because number one, it's not a gift. You're not giving it to someone out of the goodness of your heart. All you're doing is trying to convince people to take you up on the opportunity so that you can give your own paycheck a boost. Number two is that the opportunity itself is not good. The water is not warm, okay? The water is pretty chilly at this point. The only reason that they're saying that the opportunity is so hot and you need to jump in right now is because they're in desperate need of new recruits. That's it. And frickin' Katie again. Now she's saying, I need a mo man. My husband sucks. He's such a hater. I mean, she has to be a troll, right? Tell me in the comments, is Katie a troll? Something about this strikes me as satirical, and I think I just want to believe so badly that it is a joke because I don't want to have to face the fact that she might be serious. Then LKK says, Katie, mine too. He keeps telling me to run from this amazing opportunity. Let's pray that LKK is a troll too.
Megan and Randy are going to wrap it up, you guys. We love them too so much. She and I have become actually really close friends because of Monat. He is also a pastor that Phil worked for many moons ago. But I love their story so much because Megan is the complete opposite of me and Brady in every single way, shape, and form. And Randy is me and Brady, if that makes sense. So Megan and Randy, we love you guys. Take it away.
First, I'm getting over laryngitis, so this is not my normal voice, but
right. So yeah, like she mentioned, this isn't like my jam per se. So I'm a huge introvert. So I'm sweating and shaking, but we're going to do it. It's fine. But I'm excited for you to hear from him, but I'll just tell you really quickly in a nutshell, like my story with this. I've been doing it for 4.5 years. Connie is my direct upline. We were friends for a little while before she approached me to do this. And when she did, I literally was like, what? Connie just said I should come do this thing with her. And I just thought it was the weirdest thing because before this, I hadn't worked out of the home in 9 years. Just my dream was to be a wife and a mom and bake and cook and do crafts with the kids, and I homeschool. So why would I take on something else? So I literally thought, A, I don't have the personality because I'm an introvert. I'm not going to be having parties. I'm not going to talk to people while I'm out. Ugh. And I had a private social media. So I just thought, well, that's like all the reasons why this wouldn't go anywhere. And then also I'm so busy. So I support him in full-time ministry and homeschooling 3 kids. My twins are 13. They were 8 at the time and then a 3-year-old. And I just was in the thick of like busy mom life, right? Running errands, sports, all the things. But on a pastor's salary, just so you know, pastors aren't like, lawyer vibes and that. But when you're called to it, it's fine. And God's always provided. And we've always had more than enough. But in Orange County, and we had just moved back from Tennessee, and we had a 3rd kid now. And we were like, shoot, like this is hard. Rent is so expensive. Gas is expensive. And sometimes at the end of a month, it got really tight and it was stressful. And I remember around like the holidays and stuff, it was so stressful. And I hated that. So I literally got into this, you guys, for $200 extra so I could go to Trader Joe's and shop my heart out and not have to take in my calculator or my little list. I'm like, what if I could just go into Trader Joe's and like, just get what I want, and just being real, like we needed $200 extra would have been a lot for us. And that was my big goal. I remember telling Connie, And she's like, what? Like, why don't we dream a little bigger? I'm like, that's a lot. $200 is a lot. So that's what I had my sights set on. And neither of us were skeptical of this industry. I had been watching Connie for a while, and more than anything, I trusted her. So if she saw something in this opportunity and she saw something in me for this opportunity, I mean, I really did at the end of the day want to go for it, but my own fears and hesitations and why I thought I wouldn't be successful were holding me back. And then once I jumped in, I realized all that didn't mean anything. But we prayed about it because we do everything as a team, and we took Connie and Phil out to dinner, and we asked them all the questions, and Randy asked Phil from the husband's perspective.
They took us out to dinner. Thank you, Phil.
They
and Connie.
did. They took us out to dinner because we didn't have the $200. But I remember saying, like, do you think I could really do this? And why, like how? And when they explained it, we went home that night and I'm like, there is no reason I can't do this. And I sat on the fence for 5 months watching Connie. By the time I joined her, she was already director, had the car going on trips. And I'm like, I just should try, because even if I only make my investment back, then what's the big whoop? And so we put it on our credit card. Also, we had to really like pray about that because we didn't have the extra money to even invest it. So it was $300. So my big goal was to make that back and then to just move forward and make $200 a month. God does wild things when you have some faith and you trust him with the process. And I just jumped in full speed ahead and I saw the big picture. And that's why I just put my pedal to the metal. But he was always supportive, probably a little bit wanting me to get on it before I even did. So let's hear from you.
So what we're seeing here is a perfect example of faith manipulation. And we do have to acknowledge that he's a pastor. She's a pastor's wife. They're very much people of faith, and this is just kind of the way they think and talk about things. But even if they don't realize it, it's very predatory to be making statements like God always provides, or God does some wild things when you just have faith, when you're talking about an industry where most people lose money. I'm not a religious person, but I would imagine that God does not want you to make your money on the backs of other people. I would imagine God doesn't want you to scam people for a living. And I don't believe that it's ethical to manipulate somebody's relationship with God by telling them that he will always provide for you, knowing full well that there is limited capacity at the top of this company where people actually make good money. When the business model itself is structured in such a way that only a small percentage of people make a livable income, you cannot be saying that God will always provide for you. That's an unacceptable and misleading claim to make. And it's even worse when you realize that the reason that she's saying God will always provide for you in this business is because she's hoping to convince you to sign up so she can recruit you and make money off of you. How gross is that? And my favorite comment that came through during this section as they were talking was, "Can I join if I don't believe in God?" Incredible.
Yeah, so everything she said and everything Phil said and everything Nestor said, we're good. And again, I apologize if I have to clear my throat. I'm wrapping up this laryngitis here. I still have my radio kind of late night talk show voice. So as Megan mentioned, we're in ministry, and we sign up for working for God knowing that it doesn't pay a lot. And so that was a sacrifice for us. And so, guys, what I wanted to share kind of with you tonight, but really with everyone, is a few things that I saw. And then now 4 years into it, as I look back, the hindsight of it all. And so the first thing for me as we jumped in was, kind of that personal side. Megan, being a stay-at-home mom and an introvert, she didn't have a big circle of friends. She didn't want a big circle of friends.
Yeah.
And so, as parents, especially with young kids, it's so easy for our identity to be wrapped up in our kids. And I know that she needed something beyond that. And so when Connie brought this to us and we saw that it was really such a low risk, I thought, why not? Now, I'm an early adopter in life in general. Like, the new things, bring it all on. I want it. I'm in for it. And so, again, kind of like Connie said, like, I get hyped about stuff. And so I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's make it work. And so I was all in from the beginning. Megan said no at first, but I was like, Connie, let's do this. And so we made a pros and cons list. And so we literally sat down with a piece of paper and said, okay, what are the pros of this opportunity? What are the cons of it? And as we laid out the list, we saw, man, the pros far outweighed the cons. And we said, it would be dumb not to try this. And so we jumped in, and Megan started running with it, not knowing what the heck she was doing. And it was a journey. And she has grown in amazing ways. And one of the things as a husband, being a pastor, we look at the scriptures and we see that God has called us as husband and wife to be one. And so when she stepped into this, it wasn't just her, that it was us doing this together in some capacity, some shape or some form. And so guys, wherever you land on this, if you're married, God has called you to support your spouse. And so how can you find that balance of supporting? And it looks different for everyone, as kind of mentioned. Some husbands, they're running reports and they're helping in the back office and they're, writing notes or whatever. Other husbands are there, like Phil was talking about, learning how to cook dinner, learning how to order takeout, whatever that looks like. The involvement is different for every couple, right? That's so important because, you can't exist in a space where you're not wired to last. And so, for me running reports, I can help out in that, but that's not where I thrive. And so looking for ways to support Megan in the meantime, but also looking at bigger picture, how can I support her with my gifts and with my talents? And so there are so many different ways that we can support our wives or girlfriends, if you're a boyfriend on here, hopping on, watching this as well. But the biggest thing is that we need to support them. If we want them to be successful in this business, they need our support. They need our buy-in too, even if it's just saying, hey, honey, like, we're going to try this out and let's take a shot. Like Phil said, like, okay, well, here's some goals that we want to make. If we make that back, let's keep going with it. And so with the $300 investment, that was kind of our thing. Like, okay, let's make a couple $100 back. And that is great, whatever that looks like. And so our goal was never to make, thousands of dollars a month, $1 million, earner. It was a couple $100. And so,
but once I reached my goal, it became for us, how can we help others do that?
Right. And so we saw a shift, and so the personal side of things, seeing Megan grow, was what was really fueling for me, because she went from this introvert, small social media following, stay-at-home mom to building a team and working with others and building these friendships that are so much like her and so much like us as a couple that we just connected. And so it shifted from about the $200 to this community, and then saying, okay, well, what can we do? How can we invite other people into this? Not for the money side of this, but for the community, for helping them out. Maybe it is.
You found your own community in it.
Yeah. And so
I love.
And so that was an amazing component, and really seeing her grow and develop has been, the biggest blessing for me. The financial thing is great. Absolutely. But the community of women that have come together, that we have made lifelong friends. And, me, Phil, and Nestor are on a group chat called Tough Love, and Nestor's usually non-existent in it, but that's okay. But, we've built this, the guys, the Mo men, we have built a community as well. And so it wasn't just her, it was us guys. We just went to Punta Cana and got to hang out with a bunch of guys. Like, we went and played golf together while the girls were in session. And so it's just been this amazing thing where it started out for her, but then it's turned into for us. And so I've really, really enjoyed that, and watching Megan grow in those areas. And it's just been such an amazing opportunity for us that had we said no, had I not been supportive, we never would have gotten to where we are today.
Well, and honestly, I couldn't do what I do without your support. Mentally, with all the kids, like, I couldn't do what I do to the capacity that I do without your support. So your spouse's support goes so far. Even just how many days in the beginning where I'm like, I just need them out of the house. I have to do a call and they're yelling, just little things like that. Just get them out of the house, or, just pat me on the back. Good job. Like, little pieces of support can just be that wind under our wings. And then you guys will see the fruit of that even more.
This message just came through in the chat, and it says, this is great, but can I suggest you speak to some women who are in the lower or middle of the comp plan to get feedback from their husbands? I don't think many of us can relate to the amount of money that you ladies are making. Which honestly is exactly what I was thinking as I was watching this, because they seem like genuine, nice, kind people with good hearts and all of these great things that come from this opportunity. They're making a lot of money. They have a great community of friends. And it's like, okay, wonderful. You love this. It's strengthened your relationship. All of that is fine and dandy. But what about having some representation from the majority of the company? Could those people say the same thing? Is their experience what you're describing here? Like, how much money are they making? Are they making anything at all? Are their relationships strengthened, or are they strained? Do they feel like they found their best friends, or is this kind of like a toxic environment where they realize that their relationships are conditional based on money and performance? And I think that requesting a more balanced representation on these types of calls is reasonable and it's necessary. obviously only the people at the top of the company are chosen to speak on these calls because they're the most likely to report positive experiences, and they oftentimes have like a rags to riches kind of success story. But it's not relatable to most of the people on this call. So what is this all even for? It's to give people this renewed sense of hope that if it worked for them, it can work for me. It's to provide examples of success stories over and over again to turn attention away from the fact that these results are not typical and not probable. And what's really interesting is that I've been paying attention, and the host of this call has been pretty consistent about responding to people's questions as they come up. So somebody asked earlier, do you have to be religious to join Monat? And she responded right away, no, absolutely not. However, this question about having people from the middle of the compensation plan speak on these calls was never answered, never addressed, just completely ignored by the host. Which is exactly what I expected, right? Because if she answered honestly, she'd be like, no, we're probably never going to have that because those people don't have good experiences. Those people don't have the success stories that these people at the top do, so we're not going to give them any airtime because they won't be as effective at recruiting new people as these guys are.
Something that Phil said earlier is the sacrifice, right? The negotiation. That's what marriage is about. And, we look at different opportunities and ways that we can sacrifice and we can serve each other in that. And, it's been such a great opportunity for us to really just dive into this together. And guys, there are so many different ways that you can support. And so it's not that you have to kind of fit in this box of administrative assistant, right? So many different opportunities, so many different ways that you can do that. And then the added benefit of it is if you're willing to go all in with it, the community that can come out of it, even for the guys, like, the opportunity that we've lifelong friendships, going over to our friends' houses for dinner, playing cornhole, whatever it is. Man, it's been an amazing opportunity for us that I think it's worth the risk. It's worth trying.
Because there's no risk.
Right. It's so low. I saw a quote today. Zig Ziglar said that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And, greatness, it takes time, right? It takes investment. It takes you being willing to put in the work. And I think that's so important that if we want our wives, our girlfriends to be successful, we have to be able to support them so that they can be great. Because it's not them in isolation. It affects you and it affects us.
And this doesn't have to be your dream job. It wasn't my dream job, but yeah. It's the thing
turned into it.
Yeah, that allows us to chase our dreams. Yeah. It's just an avenue to do that and to bless other people through it. Yeah. So we get it. If you are skeptical, you think this is weird for your girlfriend or wife to get into. Everyone has their own doubts and stuff, but until you're on the other side of it, you really won't know.
I have to respect the fact that she's like, no, not my dream job. But I make good money, so what the heck? And I swear to you, it's come up like 6 or 7 times in this one call alone that they keep saying, like, what's the risk? It's such a low risk. And I just keep shaking my head because I'm like, there is so much risk. You risk losing money. You risk sacrificing your relationships. You risk your entire social media presence, and you're now forced to only post about Monat and turn everything into a pitch. You risk your time. You risk your sense of identity. Like, you have a lot to lose if you join an MLM, but they keep framing it like it's so low risk. Just try it out. Just see how you like it. And that's so people will get their foot in the door. They will sign up, and then they're subject to all the brainwashing and manipulation that goes on within the company, therefore making it really difficult to leave. I just think that that's such a dangerous statement to be making, that it's such low risk, because a potential recruit hearing that might agree with that and might be like, yeah, you're right. I will join. I'll just give it a shot. We'll see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? And then before you know it, you've wasted all this time and money, and you're never going to get to their position. And one day you will come to the realization that you have been scammed and there was a lot to lose.
Yeah. And I think the support plays in too, because the business, it's not instant money. It takes time. And so having a support network where you can keep going, keep trying, putting the pedal to the metal, as you said, just keep going with it. It's going to weigh out in the long run. You're going to see the benefit of that. And so, that's what I got for you. And I didn't have a coughing attack.
Good
job. I'm super happy about that.
That was perfect, Randy. I love it. So good, you guys. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up, you guys. Britt, I want to ask you if you have anything that you wanted to just end with, any last thoughts or tips?
First off, you guys, this was so good to hear from just the men and a different perspective from my husband. from Phil and Randy. But I want to leave you with this. And Nestor had kind of shared our story a little bit and how he had mentioned, I had gone through, what people have said and whatnot. And I wanted to preface that when I was first getting into this business, you guys, before I had made the decision to join Monat, I had so many people in my ear telling me, it's not going to work. You're going to fail. This is not a good idea. This is a dumb idea. Like anything negative you could think of, that was what was being filled into my mind. And I was sharing this with him on the way home today and saying, it's so sad because there's people out there that is their sole mission to tell you, do not do this. Do not do this. It is not a good thing. And they will tear this type of industry down, you guys.
Hello, it's me, saving women from being scammed one video at a time.
But I go, what if I would have listened to that? I would have never experienced all that I experienced. We would never experience everything that we've experienced. And so tonight I want you to take a chance. You can hear everybody say, well, statistically speaking, no one succeeds. But guess what? I succeeded. Connie succeeded. Megan succeeded. There are so many people that succeed in this industry. So don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't do something. Give it a shot. Try something different and take a chance. And that's the only way you're ever going to truly know if this can do something for you. But I thank the Lord each and every day that I didn't listen, because I'd rather have tried and failed, because then I would have known. But if someone would have told me something and I listened and I never tried and I gave up on everything that the Lord has given me, that would have been devastating, absolutely devastating. So just take a chance tonight, you guys. Ask yourself, what's really holding me back? What is really stopping me from pushing that join now button? And assess that and figure it out. Write a pro and cons list just like Meg and Randy did. That is so smart. And I was telling him, if you are really thinking business, figure it out. What are the pros and what are the cons? And I'm telling you, there are so many pros to this that it's silly not to try.
She's saying that people will try and present you with statistics and the failure rates. But then she's like, I succeeded. That's because you're in a scam and the scam worked. That's because you scammed enough other women to be able to say that you succeeded in the scam. The fact that they have the same handful of people leading all of these calls should be alarming to us. The fact that they have to recycle the same top earners over and over again should be a red flag. If this business model truly made everybody successful, then they should have an endless pool of people to choose from to host these calls. And it's concerning to see that her only defense against people saying, well, most people fail is, well, I'm successful. That's genuinely the best defense that she has, because there's no facts to back that up. There's no statistics to back her up. Even the company's own income disclosure shows us that most people aren't successful. All she has is her own personal testimony, which ultimately means nothing, because her saying that it worked for her does not prove in any way, shape, or form that it'll work for other people.
And then last but not least, you guys, if you go, well, this is great, I'm ready, I want to take a chance. I loved hearing your guys' stories. But now what? What does this look like? How do I do this? What you're going to do is you're going to get back to the market partner that sent you here first and foremost. If you don't have one and you randomly found this call, you can connect with myself or Connie or Megan, and we can help you. But it is so simple. There is nothing really to this other than, once again, you get back with the market partner and you pick out a product pack. And there are so many to choose from. So whatever you feel comfortable with, think about it. What is smart for you and your family? Pick that product pack. They send you a box full of amazing products, and now it's up to you. That's it. There are no fees. There are no quotas. There are no requirements. There is nothing required of you other than what you require of yourself. Whether it's up to you what you want out of this business. That's as simple as it is. There's no catches.
She said there's no fees, which is a lie. If you join as a market partner, there's a $50 annual fee. If you just want to join as a VIP customer, it's a $20 fee. She said there's no quotas, which is also a lie. I'll link the compensation plan below and you can see the purchase, the sales, and the recruitment quotas that you have each and every month in order to remain active and to rise in the ranks. And I will never understand how MLM Huns can so confidently lie about things that are easy to disprove with their own company's documents.
But that's what you want to start with. Okay, I'm interested. Go back. Say, give me that link. I want to go look at the product packs. I'm going to join. And then we're going to go from there. There are so many trainings, so many resources. The community is built in. The mentorship is built in, you guys. And it could just be something amazing for you. But don't ever let anyone tell you it won't work. Because once again, I'm so thankful I didn't listen to all those people because it worked for me. And if it worked for me, why can't it work for you? That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much. I will get the recording out for you guys so you can share it. Thank you, Nestor. Thank you, Randy. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.
If you believed in statistics, you would understand why it worked for you and why it can't work for other people, but I digress. My final thought on this entire call is to please consider the source. Everything that was said on this call was money motivated. The purpose of this call is to increase recruitment and make more money. I encourage you to do your own research, to listen to the facts, to pay attention to the information that the company shows you, and always consider the source when you are deciding if joining an MLM is going to be a good thing for you or not. Please consider the motive that that person has in the information that they're giving you and decide who you're going to trust. Are you going to trust the person that's in the company, that's trying to recruit you, that's trying to make money off of you? Or are you going to trust your loved ones, your spouse, your closest friends, strangers on the internet who are presenting you with factual information that doesn't present the company's opportunity in the best light? That decision is up to you. And my final gift to you from this call is this comment that came through right at the end. Usually I end my videos with a comment shout out from somebody in my own comment section, but this one was too good. Petunia says, "Who should I call first when I get off this call? I don't even know where to begin. Maybe I'll just call an attorney and divorce my hater of a husband. F him." And I think that sums up this toxic Zoom call perfectly. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in my next one real soon.